How do you know when you have attained your first stream?
When you have attained stream entry, your direction in life will be different. Before you attain stream entry, you may like to go to the casino, like to go to Hajjai, fly to Hong Kong for lunch and come back, and all that. Go to China, sightseeing. After you learn the Dhamma, then you realize, wow, life cannot play, because very dangerous. I've got 5 destinations of rebirth, and you can easily fall into 3 woeful planes. Then you get scared. Then you know, listening to the Dhamma and meditation is very important. Then you don't go with your friends happy hour and all that. You tend to be alone. And people see a funny fellow already. But cannot be helped. There's a price you have to pay. There's an Indian saying, the holy path is the path of the alone, to the alone, by the alone. Only Ying Xiong, heroes can walk that path. So if a person has not changed, he claims to be a Sotapanna, cannot believe. Some people go for a retreat and they come back and they say, their teacher said, it go liao, Sotapanna. But you find the temper is still so big, still so arrogant, wants everybody to know that he is a Sotapanna.
In modern life, there are many negatives. Sometimes we do what shouldn't do at work. So, how does the Dhamma apply here? It's quite difficult sometimes.
You have to see your conscience. See whether it is bearable or not. If you think it goes against your principles, then don't do. When I was a young man, like many people, like to be macho. So I joined the Naval Volunteer Reserve Force, became a captain there. And after 2-3 years, I learned the Dhamma. Then I felt becoming a naval officer conflicts with the Buddhist teaching. The Buddhist teaching is way of peace, not to fight and all these things. Then I resigned. So in the same way, you think you can tolerate it, you tolerate. If not, if it disturbs your mind, you change your job.
The world is driven by money, desire, and greed. So, because of this, the traveling is very difficult.
We're not asking you to be an arahant in this life. You can attain stream entry, is good enough.
Or maybe we can windfall, then we can turn over. Then we can live this samsara life,
A few years. A few years ago, I read about a doctor in Singapore. After he graduated, he was one of the top students in studies and sports. So he graduated as a doctor, I think from NUS, and then he wanted to become a specialist. He studied, but he thought a bit slow to make money. So he went into this, what do you call it, plastic surgery. You beautify the lady, tighten the skin and all this. Within the first year, he became a millionaire. After a few years, he had a few doctors under him, became a multi-millionaire. He bought Porsche, Ferrari and all that. Then at the age of 40-something, suddenly he got cancer. 4th stage cancer. Then, just before he died, he went back to NUS and talked to the students. He said, life is not all about making money, he said. He said, after making so much money, now that he's dying, he finds there's no purpose in life. So, you have to be wise. For me, I gave up my job as an engineer, turned the other way, and just as about to throw in my resignation letter, I got another promotion. So I thought that Satan's tricks are trying to hold me back. So I still resigned. Now, having become a monk for 35 years, 3 years in Mahayana, 32 years in Theravada, I'm a very happy person. I'm coming to 71 this year. I think my life is meaningful because I benefit myself and benefit other people. I've taken the trouble to teach the 5 Nikayas in English, all the 5 Nikayas. And I think 4 Nikayas in Hokkien. And it has benefited many people. There's few people come and tell me how their life has changed after listening to the Dhamma, some of them with tears in their eyes. And I know 3 or 4 people whose depression was cured after listening to the Dhamma. Because depression, because it's of attachment, we cannot let go, or gives us mental suffering. So when you understand the Dhamma, you start to let go, and you become much happier. So, materially, I'm very poor, not a cent to my name, but inside not so poor lah. Yeah. Give somebody else a chance. You just follow the sequence in the SD card. Introductory talks, advanced talks, Anguttara Nikaya. Are you talking about the paramitas?
6 paramitas.
Okay.
It's almost the same as the 8 noble path.
Not different. It's totally different.
It's only rearrangements.
No, totally different. The 6 paramitas, perfections of character, are worldly things. Don't bring you out of samsara.
It's not in the original.
The Buddha never even heard of the word paramita. These paramitas, there are 6 in Mahayana, and then Theravada later, Kyasu, make it 10. These are based on the Jataka stories. Jataka stories are grandmother's tales which existed before the time of the Buddha. And then after the Buddha was enlightened, they used this to teach children. Because these Jataka stories are useful for children. There's a moral behind them. I come from a Baba Nonya family. When I was young, my grandmother used to tell me stories of Sangkanchil, which were very nice to hear, Sangkanchil. But these are all stories. Because you think about it, these Jataka stories, animals can talk. And animals are smarter than men. Like the rabbit, he saw the hunter hunt the whole day, did not shoot any animal. So at night, the hunter was very hungry. He boiled the water, nothing to eat. So this wise rabbit jumped into the pot, committed suicide for the hunter to eat. Dana, sacrifice. This is foolishness because the Buddha said, a wise person's dana, offering, charity, must not harm himself, must not harm others. Same with the Vesantara Jataka. Vesantara Jataka, I said the Buddha tried to perfect his parami of giving. So he gave away his wife and his 2 children to a heartless beggar. He knew the beggar would beat them. Yet he gave his wife and his 2 children to the beggar. Senseless. There are many such things in Mahayana. I spent 9 years in Mahayana. 6 years as a layman and 3 years as a monk. So I know quite well. For example, there's one Mahayana Sutra that says the Buddha is walking in the forest and then he saw a skeleton lying there. And then in front of all his disciples, he bowed to the skeleton. And they asked him, Bhagavan, why do you bow to this skeleton? He said, Nanda, you don't have wisdom. This one could have been my mother or my grandmother, grandmother or grandfather or whatever in the past life. Imagine, skeleton, if he can bow, what if he sees the real life being? He should bow, isn't it? The Buddha said, there's hardly any being you meet who has not been your relative in the past. So if the Buddha met a pig, a wild boar, he should bow. Yeah? Because the wild boar was his previous life mother. He should bow. Silly, isn't it? If you don't think, you accept it. When we are new in Buddhism, I accepted a lot of things, very fascinating. But later, when we learn to think, I was in a Catholic school for 12 years. When I was young, I was very taken up by the Catholic religion. I used to go to the chapel every day and pray. When I was in Form 6, this computer start to work. Then they say things like, if you don't baptize, become a Christian, you go to hell forever and ever. And not logical. I suppose a person is not a Christian, but he's a good man. Help everybody, does not do evil. Why must he go to hell forever and ever? In the first place, why did God make hell? God made hell to put somebody there, isn't it? So how can God be compassionate if He makes hell to put somebody there? Yeah. Also, they say God knows the past, the present, and the future. So if He knows everything, when He makes somebody, He knows in the future this person is going to heaven or hell. If going to hell, put on hold. Why never put on hold? So a lot of these questions disturb me. Disturb me very much. One day I went to the chapel and I said, sorry God. So many doubts. I cannot come every day. And I left the religion for a few years. Later something happened. Then I went back to religion. Studied all the major religions until I came to Buddhism.
If there's no self, then who is the one behind us to do the thinking, seeing, talking, doing?
The dreamer, you are the dreamer.
Then who is behind the dreamer?
There is no one behind the dreamer. Suppose at night you were dreaming and in your dream you were so frightened. Then you ask the same question. Who created you in the first place? Nobody created you. You created yourself. The normal mind, the Buddha said, we have a misperception of the world. Our perception of the world is through our eyes, through our ears, our six senses. The Buddha said, we have been deceived by the mind for a long time. So we see the world as outside of us, and we are inside this body. But it's not true. For example, we think the eye sees the world. The eye does not see the world. If the eye can see the world, we go for a quick operation, take out the two eyes, put on the table and ask the eyes to see. Can it see? No. But at night when you are dreaming, you are not using your eyes, and yet you can see, you can hear, you can smell. Somebody punch you also you can feel. So, the world is not out there, but it is in consciousness. The Buddha says, whenever consciousness arises, it arises with Nama-rupa. Nama-rupa is the whole world. Once you are conscious of the whole world. And why the consciousness arises is because of your desire to live. When we are dying, most of us, we are not willing to die. We want to live. So, the will to live makes the consciousness arise. But nothing stays permanent in the world. Everything is impermanent. The consciousness will cease. Once it ceases, because of your desire to live, it arises again. So you think about it now. You only exist for one moment, when you're one conscious moment. After that, you die. After that, you live again. After that, you die. I remember there's one Christian saint, I think he was a meditator. He said, I die every moment. Maybe you could see this consciousness arise. So it is because of not understanding the Dhamma, you just believe your senses. You go and listen to the 5 Nikayas. Later, after listening a few times, then you come and ask me.
That means the consciousness belongs to all of us.
Don't think too much, you go cuckoo.
Thank you.
Okay, Bhante. In the mindfulness of breathing, anapanasati, it's mentioned in this 7 factor of enlightenment 4 times. Why?
Those 4 factors is not anapanasati. Those 4 factors are the 4 jhanas.
No, you mentioned the 16 factors, right? The 1 to 4, 5 to 6.
Are you talking about Bojjhanga?
No, mindfulness of breathing, the sutta.
Okay.
118. Right? And then you mentioned this would fulfill 4 foundation of mindfulness, and 4 foundation of mindfulness would fulfill 7 factors of. It's mentioned 4 times. Is it to the body, to the feelings, to the mind? Why?
Why? Because you see, when we start off practicing anapanasati, mindfulness of the breath, we contemplate only one object, which is the breathing, which is considered part of the body. But when a person is practicing this anapanasati, he has to be very, very mindful. He's practicing satipatthana. And satipatthana and sati are different. Sati is just mindfulness. Satipatthana is intense state of mindfulness. If you go into our website or our Facebook, Vihara Buddha Gautama, there is a booklet, I think I brought a few copies, Contemplation and Meditation. That explains the difference between sati and satipatthana. Sati is what you practice in normal everyday life, right? Mindfulness. But satipatthana is what you practice in meditation, intense state of sati. To understand this, you have to listen to the Satipatthana Suttas, where the Buddha described how to practice satipatthana. It's different. It's intense state of mindfulness. So when you practice intense state of mindfulness, the mind is changing. Feelings are changing. For example, piti, delight, arises. When you attain the first jhana, delight arises. Happiness arises. That happiness is body happiness as well as mental happiness. So if a person is practicing correctly, the Buddha's meditation is mindful of all these. He is mindful of the 4 objects of sati also, because even though he is contemplating one object, his mind is so clear that he can notice all the other things. So like in the Anupada Sutta, Majjhima Nikaya 111, the Buddha described the states of jhana experienced by Venerable Sariputta. He said when he attained the first jhana, the feelings that arise, he knows. Those that persist, he knows. Those that cease also he knows. The perceptions that arise and all that, the changing state of mind, he can see the Dhamma, everything. So you have to study more suttas, then you understand. You just study Anapanasati Sutta, you won't understand.
I just want to pass my understanding and in summary, the key takeaway of today's session of the talk, whether I miss any point. I think what you're trying to say is that we should base our learning on the suttas, on Dhamma, practice, listen to more Dhamma, discuss Dhamma, and practice meditation. Is that all? Yeah, I'm not sure whether I missed it.
Yeah, quite correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Is it possible to sit down without referring to a commentary or self-comment? Just like you study.
Yes, but the problem is if you study the suttas by yourself in the books, you find hard to understand. There were several people who tried to study the Nikayas by themselves and they found so difficult they stopped. But when they listened to my talks, then they said it was much easier to understand. The reason is because after I speak the sutta, I explain. And I explain using different suttas. As I mentioned just now, if you are a blind man, you touch the elephant's foot and you think an elephant is just like a coconut tree. But if you touch the different parts of the elephant, then only you get an overall picture lah. Much easier if you listen to my talks. Like if you can't get the SD card today, you can download from the internet, our website. Yes.
Am I right to say that for this meditation, jhana must involve? Master jhana.
Jhana is the result of right meditation. But you have to be careful because nowadays some monks teach jhana using Visuddhi Magga, not the suttas. So their jhana, their samadhi is a bit different from the Buddha's samadhi. Yes.
Other than listening to your explanation, those that try to explain the suttas, is there any good methods or ways or tips that you can share with us that we can learn from?
Other ways of what?
Because you walk through the path.
Just listen to the talks lah and meditate.
I understand there's some difference between some are dry, some are wet. So, meaning that some actually do not have each other and still yet became special.
That is wrong view. That comes from the commentaries. That is not the Buddha's words. Nowadays there's a lot of teachings taught even by famous monks which contradict what the Buddha said. In the suttas, in the Anguttara Nikaya 9.12, 3.86, the Buddha said the Sotapanna and the Sakadagamin, the first and the second fruition, Arya, they have perfect sila. The Anagamin has perfect sila and perfect samadhi. The third fruit, Arya, has perfect sila and perfect samadhi. Perfect samadhi is the 4 jhanas. Okay. Say again. Wait. We are not talking about psychic powers. We are talking about the jhanas. If you are referring to the Ahanjing, it's not accurate.
Even if there's a party.
No. Susima Sutta has been purposely misinterpreted. After this, I talk to you about Susima Sutta. But, okay, this one, I was mentioning the Sutta in the Anguttara Nikaya, where an Anagamin must have 4 jhanas before he can become an Anagamin. And Arahant has perfect sila, samadhi and panya, meaning he must have 4 jhanas before he can become an Arahant. Just now I mentioned about the Jatilas, matted hair ascetics. The Buddha went to them because they had attained the jhanas. And the Buddha only spoke 1 sutta and they all became enlightened. There's another sutta in the Majjhima Nikaya. The Buddha says that there is a path to eliminate the 5 lower hindrances. Without walking that path, it is impossible to eliminate the 5 lower hindrances. When you eliminate the 5 lower hindrances, you become an Anagamin. And Arahant has also eliminated the 5 lower fetters. And that path is the 4 jhanas. Without the 4 jhanas, you cannot become an Anagamin and an Arahant. So the commentaries, which was written by later monks who could not attain the jhanas, because to attain the jhanas, you have to practice like the Buddha's disciples, go and live alone in the forest. But those monks who wrote the commentaries and the later books, they are scholar monks. They live comfortably in a monastery and they don't have to work, they have so much time, they start writing all this nonsense. So they say, the commentaries say, there are five types of arahants. One has 4 jhanas, one has 3 jhanas, one has 2 jhanas, one has 1 jhana, and one has no jhana. This is totally in contradiction to the Buddha's earliest discourses. And then referring to the Susima Sutta, in the Susima Sutta, there was an external sect ascetic. He and his monk friends, they were very jealous of the Buddha because the Buddha's monks receive a lot of offerings and they receive very little offerings because they did not practice well. So their sect asked somebody to go and become a monk under the Buddha Gautama and learn their secret. So he went and asked to be ordained. Susima asked to be ordained as a Buddha's monk. So he was ordained. After he was ordained, he saw some arahants declaring final knowledge. That means the attainment of arahanthood to the Buddha. And then whenever they declared that they had become an arahant, he went to them and asked them, have you attained this psychic power and that psychic power? They said no. Have you attained the arupas? Arupas are the arupa jhanas lah. What do you call it? Wusa chan, is it? Chan and Se chan and Wusa chan. Wusa is formless jhanas lah. And they said no. They said we have attained liberation through wisdom. Okay, that's all they said. They did not say they did not have any jhanas. They did not say they don't have the 4 jhanas. They said they don't have psychic powers and they don't have arupa, formless jhanas. That's all. And then he asked a few of them also, he got the same reply. Then after that, he came to ask the Buddha. And the Buddha said, whether you understand or you don't understand, these monks are liberated by wisdom. And then the Buddha said, first there must be unshakable understanding of the Dhamma. That means first you must become a Sotapanna, you must get right view. Afterwards, Nibbana. So first thing you must get right view first. After that, you put effort, continue the practice. Just now I mentioned 5 factors, Sila, listening to the Dhamma, discussion of the Dhamma, Samatha, and Vipassana. In the case of Samatha, you don't need psychic powers. In the case of Samatha, you also don't need the arupa jhanas, the formless jhanas. What you need is the 4 jhanas, and these 4 jhanas are rupa jhanas. So all the arahants had attained the 4 rupa jhanas. They don't need the arupas. So they purposely misinterpret that. I say the arahants don't have jhana. The sutta doesn't say they don't have jhana at all. Yes.
What about something called Vipassana jhana? There's such a thing.
No, rubbish. This is totally rubbish. Vipassana jhana. Contemplation jhana. How can you have contemplation jhana? Yeah.
So, rupa jhana is an ideal for liberation.
Yes, minimum 4 jhanas for total liberation. Say again?
In order to proceed into insight.
There is no such thing as insight meditation. That was created later. Insight comes from contemplating the Dhamma, contemplating the body, feelings, mind and Dhamma, 4 things. In daily life. No, meditation, the aim of meditation is to eliminate the 5 hindrances. That's why the Buddha said, remember Ananda said, the type of meditation praised by the Buddha is the 4 jhanas. The type of meditation that is not praised is the type where you don't eliminate the 5 hindrances. So, yes. It's long term lah. But jhanas are not necessary for stream entry, because there is a sutta 55.40 where the Buddha talk about two types of sotapanna. One is the diligent sotapanna, one is the negligent sotapanna. The diligent sotapanna, after he attains sotapanna, he does not make further effort to attain any jhana. The diligent one makes further effort to attain the jhanas. The negligent one does not make any effort to attain the jhanas. That shows both of them don't have jhana. This is the only sutta in the five Nikayas that says very clearly that sotapanna does not need any jhana. But if you want to attain sakadagamin, the second fruit, you need at least the first or the second or the third jhana. And then for anagamin and arahan, you need 4 jhanas. Yeah. You just listen to the sutta and practice according to the sutta, then you are correct. No need to know so much. You haven't come to the stage when you need to know. That's why you need to have a good foundation in the suttas. When you have a good foundation in the suttas, then you can differentiate the teacher who is teaching correctly or not correctly. That's why in the suttas, the Buddha said, if any monk, Anguttara Nikaya 4.180, the Buddha said, if any monk says that the Buddha taught like this and like that, the Buddha said, don't accept, don't reject. Compare it with the suttas. Only it conforms to the suttas, then it is the Buddha's teaching. Of course, the Buddha also said Vinaya, but Vinaya is for monks and nuns. So for lay people, your important one is the suttas. Also, when the Buddha was about to pass away into Parinibbana, Venerable Ananda asked him, Bhagavan, after you are gone, whom should we take as our teacher? He said, take the Dhamma and Vinaya that I have taught to be your teacher. So our real teacher is the Buddha's suttas, not any other monk. Don't ask so many questions. Just study the suttas and progress slowly. The Buddha said, the progress in the spiritual path is like the ocean. When you go into the ocean, it slopes very slowly. There is no sudden deepening. So you just go slowly. Don't think of when I can become an arahant.
The question is, few hundred years after Buddha passed away, there's a council that made the three Pitaka. So my question is Abhidhamma is Buddha's teaching?
No, Abhidhamma was created about 500 years after the Buddha's passing away. And there is evidence, some scholar monks like this Akira Hirakawa, the late professor of Buddhism in Tokyo University, he wrote a book. He said that the Buddhism split into many sects. And the later sects, each had their own Abhidhamma. They created their own Abhidhamma. So you can see, for example, now in Theravada, we have 7 books of the Abhidhamma. The first 3 or 4 books is quite okay. It conforms to the early sutta. But the last 3 books, they added a lot of things which the Buddha did not say. So it gives you wrong view. Mm.
So we need to learn Abhidhamma. I mean, there's so many teachings nowadays. With a lot of teachers who teach Abhidhamma, especially very Buddhist temples that I know.
If you don't have a good foundation in the suttas, why do you want to learn the Abhidhamma? The Buddha says his teachings are perfect and complete.
One last question.
So now, during our meditation, I choose my breath as a object. So all the while, we will focus on the breath.
Yeah.
We will focus on changing other objects.
No. There's a Chinese Zen saying, more line, more chant, 4 line, 4 chant. Buddha comes, cut him off. Mara comes, cut him off. What he's trying to say is, whatever you see, whatever you hear, etc., don't pay attention. There's some people, they meditate, they want to see heaven, they want to see hell, and they start imagining, they can see heaven, they can see hell. After some time, they go cuckoo.